headlines about rising foreclosures have you nervous about the housing situation right now? Take a deep breath. It's not as dire as the media would have you believe. Simple truths. Are foreclosures up? Yes. But are they up really high compared to other years? No. In fact, the last 2 years are some of the lowest foreclosure numbers we've seen in decades. Let's talk about why. During the pandemic, there was a stop put on foreclosures. You may have heard the term moratorium, and therefore the numbers during that time were artificially low. That moratorium has since been lifted and foreclosures are on the rise. But the larger picture is so important here. So technically, did foreclosures double from 2021 to 2023? Yeah. And are they still way lower than previous years? Absolutely. Foreclosures right now are just 12% of the foreclosures we had in 2010. In 2023, there were 357,000 foreclosures. And with the exception of the pandemic when we had the moratorium, we have not seen under 400,000 foreclosures ever since 2005. Let's drill it down to Florida. In Florida, foreclosures are up 37.9%. Sounds scary, right? Well, in January of 2023, Florida had 95 foreclosure sales. January of this year, they had 131. That's for the entire state. In my area of Gainesville, foreclosures are actually down by 50%. Sounds like a big number, right? Well, January of 2023, we had 4 foreclosure sales. January of 2024, we had 2. So when you hear a stat like 50% or a story like from 4 to 2, they're both saying the same thing, but out of context, tell a very different story. Look back in previous years, foreclosures were so much higher. According to Rick Sharga, founder and CEO of C.J. Patrick Company, foreclosure activity is still only about 60% of pre-pandemic levels. Okay, so why is this? 1, lending standards are a large part. It is much harder to qualify for financing than it used to be. In fact, just ask any buyer who's gotten a loan in the last 10 years. And this is actually a good thing. It keeps people from buying houses who really aren't truly financially ready, and it keeps them out of trouble. 2, the market demand is so high right now that if somebody finds themselves in trouble and not able to pay their mortgage, they have alternatives to foreclosure. Right now, the amount of homes for sale is still so low that if you ran into trouble with job loss or medical issues and couldn't afford your mortgage, odds are that you could put your house for sale and sell it, pay off the bank, and do so before they foreclose on you. During the Great Recession of 2008, there were tons of houses for sale. So if you got in trouble and needed to sell your house, it was much harder to do. Now, let's clarify. Being able to sell your house, pay off the bank, and avoid foreclosure depends on when you purchased your home. If you've been in your home for less than 2 years, it may be harder to sell your home at a profit to be able to pay off the bank. But if you've been in your home 5 or more years, odds are that you saw such a gain in value that not only can you pay off the bank, you may even walk away with money in your pocket. Without turning this video into a foreclosure advice session, let me just say this. If you are falling behind on your mortgage payments, do not wait. Talk to your bank. Talk to a realtor. Get an idea of what your options are. Oftentimes when people hit these kinds of situations, they feel really embarrassed and ashamed. But if you seek the right advice soon, you can find a solution and you can dig your way out. So what if I'm still feeling uneasy about the current real estate market? That's normal, especially if you're a new buyer or a new homeowner. But here is what you need to know. Look at this chart from CoreLogic. This compares the month of October year over year from 2022 to 2023. If a giant wave of foreclosures was coming, there would be a much larger difference year over year. Instead, the numbers year over year, they're almost identical. Yes, foreclosures are up, but they're still way low and some of the lowest we've seen in over 20 years. And the amount of homes for sale is low enough that someone who would otherwise go into foreclosure may be able to sell their home. In other words, a giant wave of foreclosures, it's not coming. And I'll tell you this, the minute any of that changes, you're gonna be the first to know, because it's my job to be your resource and keep you up to date on what exactly is happening today in real estate. I'm Lindsey Johnson, your resource for all things real estate. See you next time.